There may be some who are actually valid and want, I mean, they've missed because of some valid reason. Let them
Yeah,
not suffer because of the others.
yeah, fine. So, okay, I started recording. So let us take this point 1.5 and 2.5, this point. So consider the parameters EPS 0.6 and minimum points is 4. So if you take this point, consider the point value 0.6 value. What is this EPS? If you take this point 0.6 and circle around this, taking the radius 0.6, how many points are coming into this radar? There is only one point, right? There is only one point, that is 1.2 and 2.5. So can we call this as a this one centroid? Can we call this as a core point? No. Though it is a data point, it is belonging to the data set. If we take the APS as 0.6 and circle around it, it is giving us only 1 point. It means the minimum number point, this has only one, which is less than the minimum number of points. So we cannot declare this as a core point. Okay, so let us see the algorithm steps first. First, what you have to do, choose the value of EPS and minimum number of points. Now, for each data point X, calculate its distance from every other data point. So now, next, third step, find the neighbor data points of X which fall inside the circle of radius EPS, or simply whose distance from X is smaller than or equal to EPS. Fourth step, treat X as visited. Okay, treat X as visited and check the number of minimum points. If the number of neighborhood points of that X is greater than or equal to minimum points, then it becomes a core point. Look at this. Treat X as visited if the number of neighborhood points around X is greater than minimum number of points, then X becomes the core point. And if it is not assigned to any cluster, create a new cluster and assign it to that. Step 5. If the number of neighborhood points around X are less than minimum number of points and it has a core point in its neighborhood, then that X becomes a border point. Then sixth step, include all the density connected points as a single cluster. Connect them into, merge them into a single cluster. Repeat the steps 1 through 6. It's an iterative process. Okay, it's an iterative process till each and every data point is touched in the data set. Okay, repeat this step, repeat the same process for every unvisited point in the data set and find out 4 border points and outlier points. So now what can you make out from this diagram? Yes, here it is a recursive step, right? If the number of neighborhood points around X is greater than or equal to minimum points, then X is treated as a core point. Okay, and if the neighborhood points around X is less than the minimum number of points, it is closer to a point, then X is treated as border point. If X is neither core nor border point, it becomes an outlier. So now in this particular picture, look at this first one, this point. So taking the EPS value 0.6, circle around it. Now how many neighboring points this particular data point has? It has 4 neighboring points, 1, 2, 3 and 4. It has 4 neighboring points. So if you draw a circle around it and if there are 4 neighboring points, check this value against minimum number of points. It is greater than or equal to 4. It means this particular point becomes a core point. And this point, consider this point. This point, again circle around this, taking the EPS value as 0.6. And how many points are coming into its neighborhood? Only 1 point. So this becomes a border point. And if you take this point, it is neither close to core nor to border. So it becomes an outlier. So let us start with algorithm. So we'll apply algorithm for this data set, the same data set. Okay, and we have to choose the value first step is we have to choose the value of EPS and minimum number of points. So consider EPS is equal to 0.6 and minimum number of points, min points is 4. So let us take the first data set 1 and 2. Okay, 1 and 2. Then calculate, take this point 1 and 2, this one. Okay, are you able to see the screen cursor movement, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So take this point 1 and 2. Initially take this point 1 and 2. What is the algorithm? Take this, compare its distance with each and every point in the data set in this 2D space. Okay, in this 2D space. So what distance measurement metric is used here? Euclidean distance metric is used. Okay, we use Euclidean distance to calculate the distance between the points. So take the point 1 and 2, compare its distance with 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Similarly, 2.5 and 4, 2.5 and 4, right? So these are the points, these are the coordinates given and values are accordingly put in the graph. So compare, calculate the distance of this point 1 and 2 with each and every data point, and this is the table, distance table you are getting. So did you understand how did we get this distance? 3 and 4, distance between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. How do you get it? Anybody? Distance between 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 itself is 0. Distance between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Distance between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. What is the distance between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? Use Euclidean distance. That is 3 minus 1 whole square plus the square root of 3 minus 1 whole square plus 4 minus 2 whole square. You will get 2.8. What is the Euclidean distance? X2 minus x1 square plus y2 minus y1 square whole square root, right? What is the Euclidean distance? Square root of x2 minus x1 square plus y2 minus y1 square. So if you take 3 minus 2 square plus 4 minus 2 square, square root of the resultant value is 2.8. Similarly, calculate the distance between 1 and 2 and 2.5 and 4. Distance between 1 and 2 and 1.5 and 2.5. You will get all these values. What is the next step? Did you understand how you are getting these values? Euclidean distance. That's it. Very simple. You have already done it, right? So now what do you understand by this? After calculating the distance as per the algorithm, what is the next step? You got this distance table, right? What is the next step? Look for the values of EPS. Here, these are the values of EPS. You are getting the distance of these data points with respect to the data point 1 and 2. Now, look at the values. The values which are less than or equal to EPS value 0.6. Okay. The values which are less than or equal to EPS value should be considered, right? So now this point 1 and 2, if you look at this table, you can make out that the value 0.53 and 0.05, that is 0.53. What are its corresponding data points? 1.2 and 2.5 and 1 and 2.5. It means what? So for the data points x and y, for the data points x and y, the neighboring data points are 1.2 and 2.5, 1.2, 2.5 and 1 and 2.5. See, you can see here for the value 1 and 2, for the value 1 and 2. This is the value, right? 1 and 2. If you take the radius point EPS value as 0.6, circle around it. So what values you are getting? I'm sorry, I'm not able to draw a perfect cycle. How many data points you are getting? How many neighboring points are there here? You are getting 2 neighboring data points. So what did we do? First we calculated the distance. Then look for the values which are less than or equal to EPS value. So these are the EPS values. This is 0.53, which is less than 0.6, and this is 0.5, which is less than 0.6. So what are the values corresponding data points? 1.2 and 2.5. 1.2 and 2.5, and 1 and 2.5. So these two are the neighboring points. So now, what is the next step? Look for the first you consider the EPS value. Next, look for the values of minimum number of points. So how many number of points this? How many number of neighborhood points this particular point has? It has only. It has only. Revant, you want to present? Revant, any issues? You have any queries? Please mute. Okay, how many number of neighbor data points it has? It has only 2. So this cannot become a core point, right? It cannot become a core point. So now, like this, calculate the distance of every data point. First, we started off with 1 and 2, compare its distance with the surrounding point. Next, take the next data point, 1.2 and 2.5. Calculate its distance with the neighboring points. Like that, repeat the same step for each and every data point in this 2D space. Now we will get this table. Okay, after calculating, we will get this table. So look at this. What can you make out from here, from this diagram? What can you make out from this diagram? It's very easy. Left, these columns are the data points what we considered from the data set. Okay, it contains all the data points in the data set, and these values are called the neighboring data points. The first one we calculated just now. First, for the first data point, we have only 2 neighboring points, so it cannot become a cluster. It cannot become a core point. Okay, this cannot become a core point. Similarly, calculate the distance for the point 3 and 4 against all the data points, and you end up getting only 2 neighboring points, so it cannot become a core point. Similarly, repeat the same thing for others. But come to this point, 2.8 and 4.5. Data point 2.8 and 4.5. So how many number of neighboring points it has? It has 3.3 and 4, 2.5 and 4, 3 and 5, 2.5 and 4.5. So now for this particular data point, the neighboring points are 4. So what is our condition? Minimum number of points should be greater than or equal to 4. Then only we can form a cluster. So this particular point has 4 neighboring data points. So this becomes the cluster 1. Similarly, on the point 1.2 and 2.5, it has 4 neighboring data points. It is becoming cluster 2. Okay, cluster 2. Next, the data point 1 and 2.5. Last one, the data point 1 and 2.5. This also has 4 neighboring data points. So this also becomes the cluster 2. But now look at this. Cluster 1 is different. Cluster 2, this is cluster 2. This is also cluster 2. Why the third cluster is assigned to cluster 2? Because the neighboring points 1 and 2 in cluster 2 and 1 and 2 in cluster 3, they have a common neighboring points, right? So here this 1.2, here it is 1.2, and here also in 1.2. So this is common. So instead of making a separate cluster, we are combining this cluster, and we are assigning this cluster to 2 because we have a common data points. So this is how the points are distinguished, how border points are categorized, core points and outliers. Okay, look at this. Have a look at this table. So did you understand why this cluster is assigned to cluster 2? Because it has a common data point, common neighboring data point. Okay. So now in the next, there are 3 different points as per the algorithm. border point, core point, and outlier. So now these points are detected by the algorithm. How it is detected? Here, during the iteration process, every core point will be assigned to new cluster unless some of the core points share the neighboring points. They will be included in the same cluster. Every border point will be assigned to the cluster based on the core point in its neighborhood. So look at this first point, 1 and 2. 1 and 2. It is a border point, right? It is a border point and it has a core point 1.2 and 2.5. And this 1.2 and 2.5 included in the cluster. It is included in the cluster 2. So this has a core point 1.2 and 2.5 and this is cluster 2. And this 1.2 and 2.5 is a neighborhood for the data point 1 and 2. And this is included in the cluster 2. Okay, it is included in the cluster 2. So point 1 and 2 will also be included in the cluster 2 also. So this is how the borders are categorized: cluster 1, cluster 2, and cluster 3. So you can say these are the core points, border points, and outliers. So there are three important terms to remember in this density-based algorithm, DB-scan algorithm. First one is direct density reachable. What is direct density reachable? A point is called direct density reachable if it has a core point in its neighborhood, means the surrounding data points. So here the point 1 and 2, it has a neighborhood data point 1.2 and 2.5. So this is directly reachable, a connected points, that's it. Next, density reachable point. A point is called density reachable from another point if they are connected through a series of core points. Okay, a series of core points. The points 1 and 3 and 1.5 and 2.5. 1 and 3 and 1.5 and 2.5. They are connected through a common series, which is that point 1.2 and 2.5. So here you can see they are, if any data points across these clusters, okay, take down these clusters, cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 2. So if you find any of the common data points across these clusters, they become the common points, or they are called density reachable from each other. Third one, density connected. The 2 points are called density connected if there is a core point which is density reachable from both the points, that is connecting point, that's it. So next we will see the coding. Here I have included the links which I have used for coding to show you. The first 3 links, especially this link, the third one, it is highlighted. You can go through this link to understand the code more in detail. The same has been included here. So here import NumPy, include all essential library. Here I am taking a method make blobs. What is it? Any idea? Make blobs. What does it do? It is a function used to generate blobs of points for clustering. Okay, it is a function used to generate blobs of data points for clustering. Second one, I am importing standard scalar for standardizing the values. Next, here I am taking the centroid center values, point y and 2 centroids x and y coordinates. Next, I am calling the function make blobs by passing these parameters. I am generating n number of samples, 400 number of samples, considering the centroids and cluster standard. This is cluster STD, is a standard deviation. What does it do? It is deviation of the clusters. It takes the deviation, standard deviation of the cluster. Random state is 0 by default. Next, I am normalizing the values using the standard scale and fit transform. And then I'm going for visualization. This C map, it is a color map. It is used to group the data points into different colors. So here, this is how I'm getting. I'm just taking one random data and I'm just categorizing these data points into different clusters. So here, call from sklearn, import the algorithm dbscan and set the EPS value. Here I'm setting the EPS value as 0.4 and minimum number of samples to be generated is 20 and fit the X. Then predict, visualize the clusters determined by dbscan. Here I'm visualizing. Again, same thing. I'm calling ypred, cmap paired, and this is how the clusters are visualized. As you can see here, there are blue data points. What are these data points? Blue ones. Initially, I took 400 samples. Number of samples, data samples are 400. Those 400 data samples are categorized into 3 clusters. And blue, light blue color data, these data points are outliers. These are called outliers. Next, advantages and disadvantages of dbscan. dbscan is a good algorithm for separating clusters of high density versus clusters of low density. It works well with a data set that has noise. It deals with noisy data set. It is great with handling outliers within the data set. Then what are the limitations, disadvantages of dbscan? It doesn't work well when dealing with clusters of varying densities. dbscan is great at separating high density clusters from low density clusters, but it can still struggle with clusters of similar density. Okay, it is not able to make proper clusters if they are of similar density, and it doesn't not always, it doesn't work well with high dimensional data, that is larger data set. With this, dbscan completes. So next we will go to k-means algorithm. What is clustering? How many types of clusterings are there? What is clustering? Grouping the data points of similar characteristics into one, that is categorizing the data points of similar characteristics. Partition based, cluster based, and hierarchical clustering. There are 3 types of clustering: partition based clustering, hierarchical clustering, and what is the other one? Density based clustering. Hierarchical based clustering, you studied agglomerative clustering and divisive clustering. And in density based clustering, you studied dbscan. Now, this is partition based clustering. K-means is partition based clustering. So what is partition based clustering? Anybody? K-means clustering is also called exclusive clustering. It partitions the data points with similar characters into perfect groups. It is exclusive clustering. It is also called hard clustering. It means data items belongs to exclusively to one cluster. Okay, data items or data points belong exclusively to one cluster. And all the data points belonging, here you can see all the data points belonging to blue cluster and all the data points belonging to pink cluster. And both of these clusters are entirely different from each other. Okay, and this algorithm runs iteratively to put each data item into its respective cluster until there are no data points shifting across the cluster. Now we can apply k-means algorithm to applications like document classification or customer segmentation, even in medical health, even in healthcare, to categorize the patients based on the diseases, like that. Okay, k-means, and this algorithm, k-means algorithm, can be applied for numeric data or continuous data only with smaller number of dimensions. And it can be applied to any scenario where you want to make groups of similar things from randomly distributed collection of data. So it is used, as I said, it is used in document classification. What is document classification here? Document classification is where you can create the clusters of documents in multiple categories based on tags, topics, or contents of the documents, etc. Facebook data is also categorized. Here data, it takes the data and categorizes that data accordingly based on the tags, based on the pictures the user share, etc. And this is a very standard classification problem, and it is highly suitable for algorithms. It is highly suitable for applications that have very few features. It cannot handle larger data set. And please remember, it is called k-means. Means. What is this? K-means. The name is called k-means because the data points hold mean values. They hold the mean values. So this means holds mean values of data points categorized into clusters. That's it. So here the main goal of this algorithm is to group similar elements or pointers into a cluster. And k in k-means represents the number of clusters. There are some algorithmic steps. Start with, first we have to decide the value of k. Select the value of k first. Start with k centroids by putting them at a random place. Second, compute the distance of every data point from the centroid and cluster them accordingly. Third, adjust the centroids so that they become the center of gravity for each cluster for given clusters. Repeat the same process, that is recluster every point based on the distance with centroid. Fifth, adjust the centroids. Sixth, recompute clusters and repeat the process till data points stop changing their clusters. Okay, now here, so far I think at this stage you know what is supervised learning and unsupervised, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. What is supervised learning? Supervised learning is nothing but where in the given data set we have a target label or class label, target variable present, and based on that we run the models. And in case of unsupervised learning, all we have is a set of features. We do not know what the target variable is. We do not know what we don't know what the class level is. We take that data set. Using that data set, we try to identify the underlying structure in the data, or sometimes we'll try to find the clusters from that data set, and we can make useful predictions out of it. Okay. So k-means algorithm is a popular supervised. Sorry, it is an unsupervised algorithm. So now, yes, let us take this data set. I have taken a simple data set, but it can handle multi-dimensional data set, but there is some limit. Usually the general observation is it works well for up to 20 observations. That is the general observation. Okay, and more than 20 it fails to perform well. So now let us take this data set. Okay, and here x and y represent two different categories. Okay, two different features, and we have to identify the clusters in this data set. Okay, now these are the two features, and this is 2D space, and this is the data set given to us, and it is a unsupervised technique, and we don't know what to do with this. Initially, to begin with, we'll make two clusters. Okay, Here first we will identify the number of clusters in it. So when this data set is given to you, you don't have any information. There is no target variable as such. You don't know what you are looking for, right? And what we can do is we'll try to find out some structure out of this data set. So now if you look at this, just by visual presentation, we can say that there are two clusters. Okay, there are two clusters, and K-means algorithm helps us to identify the correct number of clusters. Okay, what exactly is K here? K is a parameter. It's a free parameter where wherein you just set the value of K beforehand. Okay, you have to tell the algorithm what is the value of K, and what is the value of K, that is how many number of clusters you want to identify in advance. So next, how to begin with this procedure? Take the data set, okay, take the data set, and here take the value of K as 2. Take the value of K as 2. The first step is to identify the two random points. Okay, I have taken two random points here. Two random points. You can take any number of points, and you can put these random points anywhere in this data space. So here I have taken two random points. You can take 3, 4, whatever you want. So to make this explanation simple, I have taken only 2. And the next step is to find the distance of every data point from the centroid. Compute the distance of every data point from the centroid. So here, for example, if you look at this data point, we can say that this point is this point is near to red cluster, and if you take this point is near to green cluster. If you take this, we can say that this is near to red cluster. It means based on the distances of data points from their centroids, we can say that these particular points belong to clusters red, green, like that. So how do you do? Mathematically, we draw a line. How do we do it? How do you compute the distance? There is a mathematical process. The simple method is to identify the distance between these two clusters. Okay. How do you identify the distance between these two clusters? Draw a perpendicular line between these two clusters. Okay. And the points which fall here, these are the left hand side, right? This is left hand side, and the points in LHS belong to red cluster, and the points in the right hand side belong to green cluster. So we are bifurcating by drawing a line, perpendicular line between these two centroids. So now we will try to improve these clusters. How do you do? Follow the steps. We already have two clusters. We'll make better categorization. We'll make the data points to fit into proper clusters. So here, again here right now you can see there are 4 data points belonging to red clusters, these many points belonging to green clusters. What is the next step? Adjust the centroid so that they become center of gravity for given cluster. What is this? What is this? Here red cluster, in the red cluster, here you can see red cluster, right? So this red cluster, all the data points, we have to find the center of gravity for this. And here similarly for this, we have to find the center of gravity for this particular region. So for that we have to place the centroids. So here place the centroids again randomly and calculate their distance. Calculate the distance of each and every data point from the centroid. So keep adjusting the centroid so that they become center of gravity for given clusters. So now repeat the same process. So initially it was here, next it is shifted to the next random space. So we'll repeat the same process. Again we compute the distance of each of these data points from the centroids. Okay, here, from here, Again, for this, compute the centroid distance of data, each data point from the centroid. And if the point is more near to the red, place it in the red region. If the point is more near to green, place it in the green region. Okay. So yes, this is how again we are drawing a perpendicular line for this, and we are again calculate the distance, place the centroids, readjust the centroids, recompute the distance of data points from the centroid, repeat this process. Third step, address centroids. Fourth step is again recluster every point based on the distance of centroids, distance from the centroid, and again in the next fifth step again readjust the centroids. Okay, keep on adjusting the centroids until what? Till repeat this process, recalculate the centroids, recalculate the distance of individual data point from the centroid, okay, from the centroid, and readjust the clusters until none of these data points change the clusters. Okay, until none of these data points change the cluster. So right now here, after this, if you run one more iterations, there will be no shiftings. So here now the clusters are perfectly bifurcated. Okay, so this is the final cluster. We can see this is the final cluster, two clusters. Okay, so now here you can see the final clusters decided by the algorithm. Next, the most important point here is that you do not know what values, what is the perfect value for K, right? When the data set, when raw data set is given to you, in case of unsupervised learning, you do not know what is the perfect value of K, what is the good number on K. In this case, you may take in this particular case what I showed you just now. Here it is only 2D space, but in reality, when the raw data set is given to you, that has multi-dimensional data, right? And it is very difficult to visualize that multi-dimensional data using scatter plot. So which, in that case, you get confused, which K value should you begin with, right? So here initially when the data set is given to me, I can say data set can be categorized into 2 clusters. One student can say no, it can be categorized into 4 clusters. Some other student can say no, there are 6 clusters. We do not know the perfect value of K, number of clusters. So one method to determine the number of clusters is elbow method. Okay, what is this elbow method? It decides the number of clusters to be generated for a given data set. So now, what is the main job in this algorithm? The main job in this algorithm is to find the best possible value of K. So that is done using elbow method. What is this elbow method? In this method, we compute SSE. What is SSE? Sum of squared errors. Sum of squared errors. I think you know sum of squared errors. What is sum of squared errors? Anybody? Okay, no issues. Okay, in this method, we start with some value K. In this case, I have taken K as 2 and I will compute sum of square error for these 2 clusters. How it is done? Here, this is the method sum of squares. What is done here? Look at this graph. What is sum of square errors? Sum of squared errors means, sum of squared error means for each of the clusters, okay? For each of the cluster, we compute the distance of individual data points from the centroid. Compute the distance of this point from the centroid, this point from the centroid, this point from the centroid. So compute the distance of each and every data point from the centroid in cluster 1, 2, 3, like that. And then you sum up, okay, you sum up the square distances to get the SSE error. So in this case, we have taken 2 clusters. We compute SSE1 for first cluster, SSE for second cluster. Just a minute, students, I'll come back to you. Yes, Priyanka. Hello. Yeah, can you please share the link, Priyanka? I will join you. Yeah, fine. We have to come there? Yeah, fine. I'll come. Thank you. Yes, time up 10:26. We'll see remaining in the next class. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe. Bye. Are you able to hear me?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yeah.
can you stop the recording?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.